Okay, hello. So today I want to talk to you about a few things that are really going to be important to start to tune into. So let's just remind ourselves while we're here. The goal is that you're going to be able to eat what you want and lose weight and learn how to do that. Okay. And if you think about it, that really relies on you having to naturally start to learn how to eat the right amount. So normally, what our behaviours are probably like at this point in time are really just eating all your meals, probably finishing off everything that you have in the meals, then having snacks in the day from a boredom point of view, and then wanting treats on top of that. So you sort of see that layering of, you know, substantial meals, lots of grazing, and then treats starts to add up to a lot more calories than we really need. And the bottom line is we're only eating like that because we're not thinking about it. And, we're not paying attention to what we're hungry for, when we're full, when we feel satisfied from a meal, and satisfaction is really important because if you don't feel satisfied after something, so common situation is you go on a diet, so you think you have to eat salad, you end up having something really, really bland, and you just really don't feel very satisfied after eating it. You haven't enjoyed it, and that really makes you feel hard done by, and then you want to eat something else to make up for that. So there's three things that I'm going to talk about in this video to pay attention to, and that's first of all your hunger levels, your fullness levels, and what's called your satiety levels. Okay, and this is something that you just want to start to think about day to day, meal by meal, just when you can. It's building up the practice of being aware of this. So firstly, I want to talk about hunger. And when was the last time you really felt properly hungry? I know myself, I just hate the feeling of being hungry, and if I sort of think I'm going to be hungry and I'm not going to have enough energy to train somebody, I'll just dash into the kitchen and have something. And, quite often you're not hungry, we're not hungry, we're thirsty, we're bored, and we've really got confused with what hunger really feels like. So this is one of the things that you need to start to thinking about and reacquaint yourself with what hunger feels like. And it's not that you're trying to make yourself hungry or be starving all the time, but really just starting to be aware of what that sensation feels like. And think about hunger as a scale of 1 to 10. So you can be not hungry at all and really very uncomfortably starving, and that feeling just doesn't go away and won't go away, and everything in your body is telling you that you really do need to eat. And there's a level in between all of those. So there could be a 2, there's a 3, there's a sort of quite hungry, there's a starting to feel more hungry, and yet everything as a progression from 1 to 10. So you want to start to tune into and start thinking about how hungry you actually feel. And you don't have to do anything about it other than just notice. You're not trying to stop eating until you're starving, or it's more, there's no rules around it necessarily. It's just paying attention to it. So you might think, normally you might get up, do what you do, sort the kids out, whatever it is, and have your own breakfast. By the time you get to that point in the morning, you might be really running on empty and really starving. Or actually, you might just be having breakfast because it's whatever time it is and it's your little window to eat and you're not hungry at all. So just start to pay attention to that. And other things to do from a hunger point of view is start to think about and pay attention to how hungry you are after a meal. And you really want to start to tune into that as being real hunger, not cravings. So that's just one thing to just start to think about, separating those two things as well as part of that awareness. So, for example, if you have your breakfast or lunch, whatever it is, start to pay attention to when you really, genuinely feel hungry again. And it might be never, because you might just keep eating or snacking, or you might have a late lunch and an early tea and then you don't get a chance to feel hungry. So all you have to do this week is start to pay attention to and notice those feelings of hunger. So it's hunger before you eat, hunger reoccurring again after you eat, and finally, if you have a meal where you are really quite hungry when you start eating it, paying attention to how that hunger might change or disappear throughout the meal. Okay, so 3 areas to think about from a hunger perspective. The next thing to start to think about is fullness. And this obviously goes more around when you're eating. And again, think about fullness on a scale. There's a 1 where you're, completely empty, how you might feel in the morning. And then there's a 10, Christmas Day time, where you just can't move. And then everything in between that as well, okay? And, you can have a massive glass of water and feel really full. Or you can have a big 3-course meal or a chippy tea and feel really full. So start to pay attention to those things and how full you start to become or notice yourself becoming when you're eating. And this is a big one actually. So when you have a meal, it's very easy just to have it, not think about it. What you're concentrating on is the look of your plate. So the signals that you're reading is how much have I still got to go at. You're starting to use your eyes, looking at the plate in front of you to make decisions about when to stop eating. And quite often, because that's how a lot of us have been brought up, is you just keep going till it's not there. So instead of that, you want to start to pay attention to how full you start to feel as a meal progresses. And just again, you don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to. There's not a point where you have to stop, or you should stop eating before you feel full, or whatever it would be. Ignore all that for the time being. You're just going to pay attention to when you start to feel full after a meal, and you might be surprised. Actually, I always think, or always thought, I was just never full because I would just keep going until something was gone. But I was using my eyes to judge when to stop eating. And really didn't ever think about actually as food is going into your stomach, it's actually, you can't see my hands, it's actually expanding, and your stomach does have a capacity, okay? And that's a key thing because your body responds to that changing sort of expansion and that sensation in your stomach to start telling you that it's, you start to actually lose interest in food if you're paying attention, that is, when you start to get, full, physically full. So pay attention to that. And then if you do, again, think about when you feel full after a meal, when you finished a meal, how that fullness changes and sort of starts to subside over time, okay? So fullness, you're really thinking 0 to 10, how full am I before I eat? How full am I? And how's that fullness sensation changing over a meal? And then as I've finished, how long does it take to go away? So think about that. Finally, the other concept is called satiety. And that is really to do with how well nourished your body is actually after a meal and how satisfied and happy you feel that you've had what you needed and you've had enough. So I'll use the water example again. You could drink a massive, go and get a pint of water and drink a pint of water quite quickly, and you would fill your stomach up and feel quite full on the back of that, but you're not going to feel very satisfied because your body's got no calories, there's no sugar, there's no vitamins, there's obviously some minerals in there, but there's no real nutrition that your body actually needs, there's no energy in there. So you would be full but not satisfied. You could eat a salad with lots of vegetables, which has obviously got a lot of water in and a lot of fibre and something really low fat, like low fat cottage cheese, which is just devil's food, and eat physically a lot of food, but again, your body hasn't had an awful lot of nutrition and it'll probably go down very quickly, that feeling of fullness. And again, as we said at the beginning, you can have a salad and feel very unsatisfied from that. Whereas, apologies to any vegans, but you could have, or vegetarians, you could have a big steak, with like a creamy sauce on it, and you would feel very satisfied after that. Depends on what floats your boat, of course. But so there's a big difference between eating various foods and how sated and how satisfied you are, and how you feel like you've had enough, and therefore your body's satisfied and it's got what it needs and it's got the energy that it needs to do what it needs to do next, and your brain stops thinking a little bit about food. And I think this can be one of the reasons why, trying to eat very light meals and because you're frightened of having too many calories or lots of little snacks, you're never really properly fully sated or satisfied. You just drip feeding little bits of nutrition into your body and it's not enough. And that creates that cycle of needing more, needing more. And the reality of it is your calories are starting to really sort of mount up. So that's satiety levels. And even I gave a couple of examples like a salad versus a steak, and everyone's different here. There may be things that really leave you feeling really satisfied after, and actually quite not really wanting or needing food for quite a long time afterwards as well. So pay attention to that. I noticed that, you could have the same amount of calories in a bowl of cereal, for example, with milk, and feel a lot hungrier a lot faster than you would if you'd had egg and bacon, for example. So, and different foods will work for different people. So just, again, that's something to be aware of. And as I said, I've said a couple of times to do this, the objective is really just to start paying attention to these things. You're not going to remember to do it on every meal. You don't have to remember to do it every time you eat, but you really want to just try and build up your awareness and start to just check in a little bit when you're eating, before you eat, and just have a think about it. Okay, and it's better if you can to do that when you are eating on your own, because if you've obviously sat there with a big family or in a big social gathering, there's a lot of other things that are going on around you that are going to distract you. And this is really key, and it's key to cultivate over the long term. This isn't a quick fix diet where you just sort of change what you do and you lose 2 pounds a week. That's not what we're doing here. But as you start to pay attention to those feelings and start to notice what's going on, you're going to start having a different mindset towards your meal. And if you might think, oh God, I'm really full and there's still food left on my plate, that can go in the compost, or that I can eat it myself. So I'm the dustbin, and that's what I'm doing. I'm eating way beyond when I actually really need it. And this is how, by paying attention to that and then learning which foods you enjoy more because they keep you more satisfied, you're going to naturally start to be able to eat less calories. That's the key to then losing weight. So calories is still part of the picture here. We're trying to really refine or streamline the way we eat and think about food, so that we're not just eating mindlessly, eating everything that moves, eating loads of calories, or else having this very restrictive mindset where we're eating foods that we don't enjoy, that don't fill us up, that aren't realistic with the lives that we lead, and trying to use that type of approach to lose our calories instead. Okay, so hope that makes sense. Drop me a line on the bottom of this or just direct message me if you prefer, if you have any questions about it. But have a go at that this week. Let me know how you try it. All right, have a great weekend.